Hello everybody, Jason Meyer here. Welcome to Masterworks. Tonight we're going to talk about transparency. This class tonight, Masterworks, along with Sketch Club and our classes and Morning Jumpstart, taken all together, that they're an ongoing conversation about art, and basically your art development is what it's been over this last year. We start with the pure basic 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern, right? So we got a white value, a light value, a gray value, a dark value, and we name those number 4 dark, number 3 gray, number 2 light, and number 1 highlight. And then by keeping that so simple, it allows with some simple pieces for us to explore some very complex and deep art problems, and get to it in a way that I found lacking in my art education, just the nature of things and people popping in and out. So anyway, that's what you're into right now, and tonight we're going to look at some what I call master paintings, or just some good paintings that are examples of our subject matter. So we've got everything from glass to eyeballs to landscapes. We got a little bit of everything tonight. I thought I'd start out with just something a little fun. So this artist, her name's Diane Massey Chinbar, I believe it is. The last I knew, and this was quite a long ago, she was in Austin, Texas. But she's always doing super interesting things. So I wanted to kind of share you can take something that doesn't seem like that big a deal, and what would it take to make a good painting out of it? What would it take to make a good painting out of it? Anyway, that was just for fun. Let's get on here. I think before we go to Sargent, why don't we head over here to Alexander? And there's a lot of funky things going on. There always is in painting. But I actually wanted to use this as the example today. So we see a highlight right there, which tells us that the light's coming in from the front down towards this way. And so notice after the highlight that this gets a bit darker, and then it gets a little lighter down here. Can you see that? Very subtle. Very subtle, but I want you to see those differences. Usually, whatever's, and this we're looking at the side, but if we compare even that right there, that's quite a bit darker, and then that's quite a bit lighter. Now, since this is a square, you see this dark edge right here. What does that mean? Well, that just means you're looking through a bunch of glass right there. Okay, so that's one example how it can happen. Oftentimes, kind of on the top planes, if light's on the top of these things, not always, but oftentimes, you might get something just a bit lighter and cooler up there. You guys see that? All right. So let's see what else we can find. We're going to get more into it here in a minute. So if we let's take this Sargent painting, right, and look at the semi-transparency, translucence we might call it, of the eyeball. And to help us out in this, what I did was, let's turn it to black and white and blow it up. Okay, so we've got the light hitting right there. We see that highlight. And then there's that translucence, right? So what's going to happen with transparency is the light hits. Let's see if we can make that smaller. Not really. If the light hits here, in transparency, it passes through and comes out the other end. If it's opaque, it hits that and bounces off back that way. Okay, so this is a particular value pattern where the light side is darker and then the dark side is a little bit lighter. And notice how he's played the dark of the eye against those. Okay. All right. So here, what's happening here? Oh no, Claudia said she froze her YouTube. Oh, glad you're back, Claudia. Glad you're back. So, what do you guys think? You think this foreground is darker? If we come in this foreground right here, think that's darker and warmer than that blue? It certainly looks like it. Is that blue? Light, yeah. So what is this? This is a lake. And what's happening here is we're seeing through the water to the stuff underneath, and it's warmer. And then when we get out here, it's reflecting the sky, and that's cooler. And then what happens back here? It gets warmer again, doesn't it? So is this cool of the sky surrounded by warms? Okay, so let me ask you the next question. You see this warm back here, right? Oops, I just messed something up. Oops, I merged down. Did I merge down? There we go. So, these trees are green. How did we get red there? Get yellow. Well, what would have happened? What would have happened if he would have reflected that green? Now, when I put this here, I want you to notice the impact that both the yellow land on the other side of the water and the blue of the water in the center, what happens to those. You see how those things all bleed together? They just bleed. Whereas with that warm dark, those things can pop. So we don't always copy reality exactly how it is, but we can use these principles and the principles of how value and color work together to make things more or less visible, meaning how much impact does it have? Like if I whispered to you, that's a very small auditory impact. But if I yelled at the top of my lungs, that's a very strong auditory impact, right? And so usually we're somewhere in the middle of those two, sometimes quieter and sometimes louder and harder. So if we can think about these things in those terms, then we get more control, and you're going to need it. You're going to need to be thinking about this in the right terms, or else you're never going to allow this disgusting color on your painting. Yeah, that is absolutely disgusting. But it's the perfect bridge from there to there, which leads us to the, if we look at the blue, right? If we look at the blue right in here, is that blue the same all the way across? Like if I went and I got this right here, I could put that all the way across all that blue, right? Because just blue is blue is blue. No. No. We've got to have that movement. Did you guys see how quickly that was destroyed? But let me just a little bit. Right? And because the rest of this is so good, you can get away with a little bit of that. But Man, that's much. Why is that better? Well, it's better because there's a smaller area of focus, and so that is much more apparent. Right? If we take this blue all over here, right, this note just isn't as sensitive. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. You know, the size, with the same idea for this beach right here. Well, man, that makes a good impact. So then should I just do a bunch of that? If a little bit works, it gets too much really quick. Well, what if there's some beach on the other side? No. Right, so you've got to take these measures and realize that this note is completely different impact if you make it bigger. Also, it'll have a completely different impact if we make it smaller. So the size of that note matters as well. Okay, so I want you guys to start getting sensitive. I mean, you've already done it. You guys have grown so much. But we're going to get more and more sensitive. So let's look at this. What's happening here? Well, if I take this warm here, how do you think that compares to that blue out there? Is it darker or is it lighter? Darker. Darker, warmer. And that's lighter, grayer. It looks really blue next to that, but it's definitely more gray than that blue, cooler, let's say. So what about all that? Well, the job of that is to connect these two. Okay, so this is a completely different way of thinking about water rather than, you know, looking at this spot, seeing what you see, looking at this spot, seeing what you see, looking at this spot, seeing what you see, looking at that spot, seeing what you see, and at this spot I see that, and at this spot I see that, and this spot. No, you're thinking about this as a whole, and we're doing a movement. Okay, so artists see things larger. They see bigger movements. And then is that blue held in by two warms? Yeah. Do we have more of that orange over on the other side? We do, but it's not that bright. Right? But look how this is a warm gray. But next to that blue, it acts like a warm. Okay, so I hope you're seeing, you know, it's because of both what's in front of and what's behind that blue that it comes to life. Claudia, I just looked up. My goodness, you're having a ping pong night. Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. You guys keep me smiling. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So do you guys see how he gets that blue? Like that blue doesn't work as well. What happened? Well, if a little's good, let's do about 30 times that much. These are sensitive things we're working with here. Sensitive stuff. All right, what else do we got? What else do we got? Oof. All right, I got one last one, and then I think I may go back to the very first one for some of you guys that came in a little bit late. A little bit late, just to finish off on. So this gets very subtle here. This gets subtle, but I'm going to, before I pull it out and show it to you, what I'd like you to do is we want to look at this one wave right here. Right? And so if this light is coming from behind, so there's the light, here's the shadow, so that means the light's coming from that direction. Then that would tell us that the light shining through that's transparent. As we get down here, that water gets too thick for the light to shine through, so it gets dark. And this down here is skylight. So the question is, not the white, but this in light right here, how does that compare to that? What do you think that comparison's going to be? So let's check it out. Let's know for sure. Did you guys know that was a grayed purple there? Certainly looks like a gray blue there. Oops, too much, too much. I wanted to kind of surround that blue with this. So subtle, 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 but one's warmer and one's cooler. Okay, and it's because that order is right that this works. Could you have different colors in here and that works? That still work? Well, of course. Of course. The idea is to get, oops, I gotta go back one more. The feeling of us seeing through that and us not seeing through this. Right, so this artist, what he's done here is amazing. So let's look at what all is happening here. Well, the white foam is acting opaque. So there's our light and there's our shadow. And then the light on the back side is transparent, goes from transparency, and then it gets too thick and just goes into shadow. And then the shadow is exposed to the sky. And then we're back into the light. What? Wait, what? Wait, what? What happened? So guys, I mean, this can get extremely complicated. But you got to know these movements, right? And if you know these movements, then do they repeat down the beach? Do you feel the coolness there and the warmness there? Do you feel a little warmness in there? Do we feel coolness? Do we feel warmness? Do we feel cool? Do we feel warm? Do we feel cool? We feel warm. We feel cool. We feel warm. And then we cool off as we go back. Well, it darkens a little bit too, but that warmth is gone. Okay, I know that was a lot, pretty complicated. So, I'm really wondering what, I'm wondering, white is white is white, right? A white wave or a white cloud, a white cloud. Is that a white cloud? So that's a white cloud. That's a white cloud. That's a white cloud. Guys, I don't know that these things are actually white. He's telling us this is a white cloud. He's telling us that's a white cloud. Are we going to let him treat us like that? Are we going to let him tell us that and just let him get away with it? I wanted to point that out because what happens to this painting if this white is equal all over? Does this make, if I make these clouds brighter, does this make this a better or worse painting? Right? At first, you may get a little thrill from the pop. You may get a little thrill. But after you pay a little closer attention, you'll see the aesthetic balance is way off. It feels noisy, doesn't it? Just too much. Just too much. All right. So many layers, so little time. Yeah, well, it all goes into what you do. You're getting it. You're gonna. I can't wait to see some of your still lifes that are going to come out of you, Claudia. So as we finish up, I don't want to go into depth with this, but I started with this one. And we talked in on office hours today about studies, little studies. So could you take a little clear Coke bottle, and that's it, just a Coke bottle, and make it interesting? Right? I mean, do you have to put an edge as an edge? Right? So when that label stops, should you have a really hard, dark edge all the way down that? Does that Coca-Cola word go from more to less? So I wanted to show you this just to kind of push your beliefs a little bit. Go, oh, look at those highlights. Can you really put paint down like that? Can you smear stuff like that? Well, a lot of my encouragement lately, or instruction to many of you guys that have got the fundamentals down for sure and a little more advanced, is I want you to be more and less descriptive. And here's some examples of how less descriptive you can be. Okay, so this, although this is kind of this is a transparent bottle, this was more just to get you expand your mind on these studies and these paints and everything. And by the way, she's a fantastic artist. So if you sit down and don't have, yours doesn't look quite like this when you're done, don't be hard on yourself. This is a wowzer. This one right here is a wowzer. So, anywho. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. It's been so fun getting to have this conversation over this time. Things will be changing, and hopefully this conversation will go, but a lot of it's going to be happening inside our online school. So if you're popping in here and you like what you hear and you want some more, and the programs aren't quite what they used to be, make sure to check out the online school. We're in the program with the website. You hit the website, that'll tell you all about it and get you over there. All right, so until tomorrow morning with Morning Jumpstart, this is Jason Meyer signing off. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for some Morning Jumpstart feedback for students. So hope you guys can make it then. Thank you, everybody. Loved everyone. Bye-bye.